See what the chart makers do.
It's an old chart, but it'll do.
Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. And I'm proud to be joined by Senators Murray, Klobuchar, and Kim. So, here we are. We're a week into a government shutdown, and still Republicans are not taking this seriously. Instead of rolling up their sleeves, working with Democrats, and delivering for American families, yesterday we voted for the 5th time on their failed Republican CR. Senate Republicans are trying to run the same failed play and expecting a different result. And the House, even worse. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are furloughed. Thousands more are working without pay. And meanwhile, House Republicans are getting paid and not working. So federal workers working and not getting paid, House Republicans paid and not working. Very bad thing for them, very bad picture for them, very bad action for them. And now the Republicans are beginning to flip-flop. They're realizing the power of the health care argument from one end of America to the other. Just last week, House GOP conference chair Lisa McClain, and a member of the leadership, said not to make the message about health care benefits because ours lose that argument. Then yesterday, Speaker Johnson couldn't even look directly into the camera, saying his party is the party working to fix health care. A week or two ago, he didn't want to talk about it. Now he finds he has to talk about it, forced by the American people because they care so much about the issue. That's right, he said Republicans, the party that ripped health care away from millions of Americans to pay for tax cuts for the rich, the party that right now is refusing to actually address the health care crisis they created, refusing to extend the ACA tax credits, are now forced to talk about the very thing they were afraid to talk about, health care costs. And why? They know they're wrong. They know they're on the wrong side of the American people. Our position, Democrats' position, has been totally consistent. It hasn't changed. We want what an overwhelming majority of Americans want: to end this shutdown and address the health care crisis that will send premiums soaring for millions. 80% of Americans want to extend the ACA tax cuts. Amazing. Even more amazing, 58% of Trump voters want to extend the ACA tax cuts. We can and must do both. It's not an either or. End the shutdown and protect Americans' health care. It's not a choice. Republicans don't have to make it one. After weeks of asking Trump and Republican leaders to negotiate, yesterday Trump told reporters he's already talking to Democrats. Well, that's not true. But Leader Jeffries and I are happy to make it true. Democrats remain ready to seriously negotiate with Republicans to address the health care crisis and get out of the Republican shutdown. But we need everyone at the table. Hakeem and I, President Trump, Leader Thune, and of course, Speaker Johnson. But however, Speaker Johnson has been a massive roadblock to getting anything done. His members aren't even here doing their jobs. They've been home for weeks. He's not serious and he doesn't give a damn. Instead of doing his job, he's spreading lies, typical Johnson MO, to distract from his total incompetence to get a deal. Let's be clear. Democrats are fighting to protect Americans' health insurance. We're not pushing to give health insurance to undocumented immigrants. That's a lie. It's been proven to be a lie over and over again, but he doesn't care. He just keeps restating the lie because he's so afraid of the truth. Republicans' big old ugly bill will kick millions of American citizens off health care and drive costs through the roof. They know they're on the wrong side of this. More than 80% of Americans agree with Democrats to extend the tax credits. And Johnson is in a pickle. Why doesn't he want to vote on this? because there are probably half of his caucus that don't want to vote on anything for health care, but there's another 50 to 80 members of his caucus that see the handwriting on the wall and want to vote for extending the credits. So he'd rather not have a vote, and that's why he's had his partisan strategy of sending us a bill and going home, but it ain't working. It ain't working. It's past time for us to work together, okay? It's past time to get it done. And Johnson instead is deceiving, ducking, and denying the reality. It's past time, though, for him, Thune, Trump, to stop the political gains, work with Americans to protect health care, and end the Trump Republican shutdown. Senator Murray.
Well, less than 2 weeks ago, Leader Thune said that Democrats' insistence on addressing the Republican health care crisis was, and I quote, completely unhinged and unreasonable and unserious. Somehow, according to Republicans, saving Americans from paying thousands of dollars more for health care is, quote, unreasonable. Well, clearly, Republicans are feeling the heat from folks back home because in just the last 24 hours, we have seen the Speaker go out and say Republicans are the ones concerned about health care after they just cut more than $1 trillion from health care in their big, ugly bill. And we saw the President, in a major break from his congressional leadership, tell reporters he was ready to cut a deal. I know Republicans would rather not talk about health care, but Democrats are forcing them to talk about health care. Because when Republicans insist they will talk about health care later, they know perfectly well that will be too late. Premium increases are getting locked in right now. Letters are going out in the mail to families this month. Open enrollment actually begins in Idaho next week. Americans cannot wait. They need us to act, to end this shutdown and to address the health care crisis before those higher prices are locked in. But House Republicans are missing in action for the third week in a row. You want to know who's serious about solving problems? You want to know who's serious about ending this shutdown? It's the people who are actually here. And House Republicans, they're just not here. If House Republicans were here, I would make sure they understood half of the people who get health care on the ACA exchanges are small business owners, workers, or self-employed people. If House Republicans were here, I would make sure that they understood a quarter of American farmers are covered on the exchanges. If House Republicans were here, I'd make sure that they understood over 3/4 of the families on the exchanges actually live in Republican states. And I would make sure that they understand that the 10 states where families will face the biggest average premium increase hikes when the ACA tax credits they rely on expire are all Republican states. But House Republicans are not here. They couldn't be bothered to show up or sit down or talk to Democrats about how we prevent those premiums from doubling for millions of families. And here in the Senate, there is nothing Republican leaders are doing that even suggests they are serious about ending this shutdown or preventing health care price hikes. We are at the table. Democrats are at the table where we have been actually for weeks. So the message is simple. Let's work out a deal to end this shutdown and save families those massive premium hikes. Thank you.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Senator Schumer. So the president promised on day one that he was going to bring down costs, and it is day 261, and the opposite is happening. Electricity prices are up, groceries are up, and yes, healthcare prices are up. A few numbers to remember. Day 261, double, 2, that's how much the healthcare premiums are going up for people who are on the Affordable Care Act, as Senator Murray just pointed out. 3/4 of those people are in states that were won by Donald Trump. The majority of them are in red congressional districts. So maybe, to get to our third number, 18, day 18, that House Republicans have decided not to report to work, maybe they should start coming to the table and talking to us. I went over there this morning, and there are actually more statues of deceased Republican leaders than there are Republican House members over there right now. Just go through the rotunda. All you see is a bunch of statues of dead people. So what I'd like to see is the actual Republican House members to come back and to do their jobs, because we know what they're hearing. We've heard from some of them. You've heard from some of them publicly. They know that we have to do something about these tax credits, about the fact that our constituents are standing on the edge of a premium cliff. And that includes a number of the Republican senators who have come out and said something about it. So this is not a December thing that we can just wait around. This is not a January thing. This is a now thing. On November 1st is the day when those marketplaces open. What I've heard from my state, small business owner Eagan, Minnesota, said her premiums are expected to increase by at least $450 a month. That is $5,400 a year. 90,000 people in my state rely on these tax credits. A 60-year-old couple making $82,000 in North Carolina is going to pay almost $19,000 more a year in premiums. A 45-year-old making $62,000 a year in Alaska, $7,500 more. And a family of four, which maybe this is my segue to Senator Kim, in New Jersey, who's making $126,000 a year, would pay $8,000 more each year. These are devastating to people. They can't afford it. They're not going to be able to do it. And then they're not going to have any insurance. That is what this is about. Thank you.
Senator Kim.
The entire nation is talking about healthcare right now, and for good reason. It is literally the top thing on the minds of everybody that I've been talking to. I was able to get back to New Jersey, sit down with people concerned about losing their health care, people who are federal workers concerned about what happens next. We did a town hall where just person after person was telling us about how fearful they are about losing their care to be able to provide for their kids and their grandkids. And it's something I remember one person said, it was just very meaningful how important it was and how meaningful it was for them to see us standing up for their health care, standing up for their priorities, because they certainly don't see this with the Trump administration right now. When he said that he was going to tackle their and lower their costs, but we're seeing anything but that. In fact, their costs are going up. The second thing that really became apparent over the course of the last week is that we see that the Republicans know that they are on the wrong side of the American people, on the wrong side of these issues. And the fact that only one side of Congress is in session right now, and I say that as someone who literally worked over there in the House of Representatives not too long ago. I know them. I know those 10 Republicans that a month ago said that they support extending ACA subsidies. And I know that right now what Speaker Johnson is doing, he's not keeping the House closed, he's silencing his own members. He's preventing negotiations from happening. Not only do I know those 10 members who came out publicly for support of extending the ACA subsidies, but I know many more Republicans that I know personally from my time over there that support extending the ACA subsidies. Speaker Johnson knows that he's on the losing side of this argument, but he's more interested in keeping his job than thinking about the 750,000 furloughed federal workers or the troops that are not getting paid. That's what we're seeing right now before us all. So shame on him for being more interested in protecting his own job than the jobs of so many Americans. The third thing is that, look, this is all backfiring significantly on the Republicans. You know, Trump came out, Russ Vought came out threatening and saying that they're going to stop the funding to the Gateway Tunnel project. I can tell you people in New Jersey, but around this country, are just sick and tired of these mob boss tactics. It's honestly something that really shows just how crass and just how far the Trump administration is going to try to have the fact that they are punishing American families in order to get political retribution and revenge against those of us trying to stand up for Americans' health care. People see that. I was a career civil servant in the federal government. I worked under 2 different shutdowns before. I didn't get paid. I had to show up to work every single day. So when Trump talks about how where the furloughed employees are not guaranteed their pay, I have to just say that is not only illegal and wrong, but it is something that's sending a signal far and wide about just how much he doesn't care about the American people and the families that are really struggling right now. So whether that's what he did on the Gateway Tunnel project, which frankly right now is all people are talking about in New Jersey, between that and health care. And he's certainly going to have an impact in terms of this governor's race, because I can tell you people see firsthand what it is we need in terms of leaders standing up for the people of New Jersey. But I'll just end with this. One of the women that I talked to in New Jersey this past weekend, she was an independent voter, and I asked her, if you had a chance to talk to Donald Trump, what would you tell him? And she said, I would tell him that it's our money. It's the American people's money. It is not Donald Trump's personal bank account. He cannot use it for political revenge. He should be using it to help support the American people for what they're struggling with most. And right now, that's about affordability and about paying their health care costs for their families.
Thank you. Okay. I didn't call on you yesterday.
Thank you. I appreciate you and Senator Kim represent massive airports, LaGuardia, JFK, Newark. Are you concerned that at some point, if the air traffic control situation gets so bad that this quits being about health care and it turns to being about aviation safety?
Look, the bottom line is that Trump and his people are trying to threaten, use these people as pawns, and say they're not going to get paid, they're not going to get back pay, and all of these kinds of things. They realize it. So I've talked to air traffic controllers. I've talked to many, and they resent how Trump is trying to use them. The best answer, and the American people agree with us, is Republicans, Trump, sit down, negotiate with us to address the nation's health care needs and open up the government.
Senator Kim?
Yes, yes, yes.
History of shutdowns is not true. I understand there have been 22 shutdowns since Gerald Ford was president in the 1970s. Almost every time, these shutdowns have been unsuccessful. What are the odds? What are the odds that you will be able to exact any concessions from Republicans during this shutdown?
Well, the bottom line is they're feeling the heat. Well, now Johnson says he's the health care guy. He couldn't look straight in the camera. He said, let me look straight in the camera, and then he looked around and said, I'm the health care guy. Trump had to talk about it yesterday. The American people are on our side, and this is not just casual to them. When they hear and see, as they get back their notices from the insurance companies, how much more they have to pay, they break out in a cold sweat. How are these families that were mentioned by my colleagues going to afford $10,000 more a year, even $50,000 more a year? So we believe that the pressure that the American people are putting on the Republicans, which are already seeing them signs of cracking, are going to get them to come to the table, and we can negotiate a good deal for the American people. Yes. Go ahead.
It was Democrats who set these ACA subsidies to expire when they do. Do you regret having done that, and why?
The bottom line is very simple. We want them extended. They don't want them extended. We're fighting to get them extended. Yes.
Republicans, time and time again, say the only reason that you've gotten into this fight is because you're worried about a primary challenge in 2028. Are you worried about the pressure that you're getting from your local guys? Is that part of the reason that you think?
No, the bottom line is very simple. We're fighting for the American people. And it's not just one small group of American people that want this. It's across the board. 55% of Trump voters, hardly a flank in our party, want this. That's why we're doing it. We believe that's our job. The American people are crying out for help. Our job is to try and solve that problem for them, plain and simple. Yes.
Historically, you've been against government shutdowns. Also, Democrats passed the same CR as recently as March, as well as 13 different times under the Biden administration. Why the sudden change of course when there's
Ask Donald Trump, ask John Thune, and most of all, ask Johnson. In all those instances, we negotiated with Republicans and came to an agreement. When I was majority leader, we had 13 different CRs. Ask yourself, why was none shut down? Because I sat down with Republicans and negotiated. They haven't. The American people see it. Every poll, we just saw one in our caucus today. They blame the Republicans. They blame them because they're not negotiating, because they're on the wrong side of health care, because they're in charge. They have the presidency, the Senate, and the White House, and they've gone home. So the Republicans have put themselves in an awful stew, and the American people are blaming them. Thank you.